Chapter 21. The warm afternoon sun made for a very pleasant stroll back to the square. River walked alone with Beth as the others lagged. Her affection for Beth had taken her by surprise. Not having much in common with other females, she never gave much thought to their companionship. Spending this time with Beth, however, brought a yearning to the surface. How great would it be to have a sister again? She couldn't help but wonder. They took their time, wandering along the sidewalk, Beth pointing out various little shops she found interesting, while the guys took turns poking around all the parked cars. There would be a whistle, then River and Beth would move to the side and wait, talking and laughing the entire time. One more whistle, to signal all was clear, and they were on their way again. Each time they stopped, River took care to study Beth's reactions. At first she was uncomfortable, eyes darting around, shuffling her feet while flipping her hair. But after a while, she seemed to settle into it. It was mid-afternoon when they arrived at the courthouse. After circling the building, they settled into a shady spot in the grass, under an old oak tree. "So what are you going to do now?" asked Beth. River shrugged. "Any thoughts?" She looked around at the others, hoping for some input. Finn lay in the grass and closed his eyes. Teague lay down alongside him. Zach pulled his hood up over his head and leaned against the tree. River turned to Cash. "Want to go wander around?" He smiled and stood up, holding one hand out for Beth, the other for River. A moment later, the trio set off to explore. A pub-style restaurant stood at the corner with several small tables for outdoor seating. Cash grabbed River by the arm, stopping her in her tracks, and nodded toward a couple seated at one table. They were paying their bill. He didn't have to explain. She knew what he was getting at. The couple placed money into the small black folder, then finished their drinks and walked away. River turned to Beth. "You stay here and wait, okay?" Beth nodded. She looked confused, and more than a little apprehensive. River smiled reassuringly. Cash sauntered over to the table, as River moved closer to the front door. It swung open, and the unsuspecting waiter came outside. Pretending to stumble, she grabbed him by the arm and spun around, so his back was facing Cash. He reached out and held her arm. Good, she had his full attention. Peering over his shoulder, she watched as Cash moved in on the table. She flashed her most innocent of looks. "Oh, geez," she said. "I'm sorry." "You all right?" asked the waiter. Yeah, I'm fine," replied River, as she smiled at him and looked him in the eyes. "I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention." She continued to talk, all while maintaining eye contact. At the table, Cash had finished what he was doing and walked up to River and the waiter. "You being clumsy again?" he asked. "This girl is always running into people. I'm sorry, man." He smiled at the waiter. The waiter nodded. "Well, thanks again," said River. She winked and walked away. When they were out of earshot, she wrapped her arm around Cash's. "How much did you get?" 50. She stopped walking. "Let me guess. You didn't leave any money to pay the bill, did you?" Cash smirked and shook his head. "Such a dick." She shook her head and scolded. "You know that poor guy will have to pay for that ticket out of his own pocket. You should have only taken the tip and left the rest to pay for the food." He'll survive," he replied. River sighed. "You're spending too much time with Finn. He's rubbing off on you." Beth was silent through all of this as she kept pace, staring down at the ground. "You okay?" asked River. Beth looked up and stammered. I'm fine." She didn't look okay. In fact, she looked nervous, uncomfortable. River needed to find a distraction, something to pull Beth out of the obvious funk she was in. A few yards ahead, she saw her answer. A small ice cream shop, all decorated like an old-style soda fountain. Perfect. She grabbed Beth's arm and tugged her inside. The smell of ice cream and sugar wafted through the air. Swing music played in the background. Beth perked up. This is what River was hoping for. Minutes after placing their orders, Beth's mood turned around. She was back to being her usual bubbly self. As they left the shop, a voice called out from up the street. "Beth! Beth, wait up!" It was the girl who had shouted out of the window of the car the other day. River recognized her as Kara, Beth's friend from the photograph in her room. She was walking with the other two, Eli and Liz. "Where were you today?" demanded Liz. "I tried to call you, but you didn't pick up." "Yeah, we thought you were sick, but I see that's not the case," said Eli, as he looked over River and Cash. "Sorry, I was busy," replied Beth. "We were hanging out." There was an elusive tone to her voice. She wasn't acting like a person talking with dear friends. It was more like interacting with people she wanted to be free of. "I'm Eli," said the boy. "This is Liz and Kara." River introduced herself and Cash, then watched the interaction between Beth and her friends. There was a relaxed familiarity about them. but it appeared as though Beth was being a little distant. She wondered if this wasn't wishful thinking on her part. Beth's friends wanted her to go with them. This would be a good time for River to get with the guys alone and try to make her case for a new addition to the group. After several minutes of prodding and convincing, she persuaded Beth to go. After making sure Beth knew they would be waiting for her under the tree, they exchanged a quick hug, then parted ways. When River and Cash returned to the tree, they found the others hadn't moved at all. River plopped herself down beside Zach. Cash sat down near Finn, who was still lying on the ground with his eyes closed. On the steps of the courthouse, a band prepared to play. Feedback whistled through the air as the lead singer tapped his mic. The drummer tapped his drumsticks together while counting out loud, 1, 2, 3. Music blared out across the open square. Scanning the area, Cash said, "Well, this is quaint." "At least the music isn't bad," she laughed. It was so loud the drum and bass vibrated through the ground. Finn sat up. River was dying to share her thoughts with the others. She didn't know how long they had before Beth returned, and she wanted to have this discussion without her around. "What do y'all think of Beth?" she blurted. "She's nice," replied Cash. Zach nodded. "She's young," said Finn, turning his face toward the band. River watched a sneer sweep across his face, then disappear. "We were all young like her before," she countered. Finn shook his head. "Not that kind of young. None of us were ever that kind of young." His dismissive tone annoyed her. He wasn't even giving Beth a chance. "You say that like she's stupid. She's pretty smart." "I think you're only seeing things you want to see," he retorted. "How so?" she demanded. Frustration was giving way to anger. Teague interjected. "River, what exactly are you getting at?" Before she could answer, Finn replied. "She's thinking of having Beth come with us." She shrugged and nodded as she searched their faces for any sign they were open to the idea. She could tell by Zach's expression. He was mulling it over. She knew Cash would agree with her. The only one she had to convince was Teague. "Why not?" she asked. "She's smart. She's funny. She likes us." "Come on. It'll be fun to have her around." "Come on, Zach. You agree. You know you do." Zach grinned. "She is cute." "You can't go on what he says. He's thinking with the wrong head," shouted Finn. Zach agreed and laughed. "This is true." River hit him. "Be serious," she scalded. Hold up," said Cash. "If River is serious, we should at least consider it." Thank goodness for Cash, she thought. Finn's voice cut through the air like a car slamming on its brakes. "And now you're just kissing her ass." "Hold on," said Teague. "Cash is right. We should consider it." He gestured toward River. "Do you really want to ask her to come with us?" River nodded. "I do." "Come on, Teague. Please agree with me." "What makes you think she would even be interested?" he asked. This was her chance to plead her case. "Come on, she's been with us non-stop since we met. I feel a connection with her. It's obvious she feels one too." She gestured toward Finn. "Even with him being a dick to her, she sticks around." Finn scoffed. "She's green. I'm gonna hit him." River leaned forward. "We were all green at one time." "Greenies get you killed," replied Finn. "Just ask Cyrus and Greg about that." "Oh wait, we can't, 'cause they're dead." "That's not fair," she shouted. "We don't know who started the fire." "Actually, we do," seethed Finn. "You read the reports? You know some of the kids in that fire were too young to be seasoned riders. They were green. And you also know no seasoned rider would ever leave a lit candle next to whiskey bottles in a building that run down." River took a deep breath and opened her mouth, ready to shout. Teague put his hand up. "All right, we already know Finn's opinion and River's." He looked at Zach and Cash. "What do you two think?" "Honestly?" asked Zach. "I'm up for it. Finn's right. She's green. But I don't see why she couldn't learn." He shrugged. "It could work." "Thank you, Zach," thought River. "I think she's fine," said Cash. "Like Zach, I think she could learn quick enough." "Yes, that's two." She sighed in relief. "I guess that leaves you," Finn said to Teague, his voice dripping with venom. "What are your thoughts?" Teague sighed and rubbed his chin. "I think if River wants to try it, we should consider it. I also think we should consider what Finn is saying. He might have a point." River and Finn scoffed. They glared at one another. "We also don't have a clue," continued Teague, "what Beth would think about it all. I mean, we don't even know if she would want to come along." He turned to face Finn. "You should give her a chance. I'm asking you to do that. For me." "Yes, he's on my side. Suck it, Finn." River struggled to contain her joy. Finn seethed. "All right, let's take a vote." said Teague. All those in favor of asking Beth to come along with us, say aye. Aye, shouted River. Aye, added Cash. Aye, said Zach. Aye, said Teague. He poked Finn. Come on. Finn shook his head. Whatever. He pointed menacingly at River. But if your pet gets in the way, does something stupid, or just fucks things up, you're cleaning up the mess. Woohoo! She shouted. Now to wait for Beth to return. Finn stood up and brushed himself off. I'm walking around, he said. Without another word, he stalked away, vanishing into the crowd.